Hey, and welcome back to Coffee Not Found, a podcast for the creative industry and gamification. This week we're talking about advertising to the casual gamer and kind of all things surrounding that, the way mobile games are becoming predominant and the gaming industry is growing because of it. According to Adweek, game apps have grown 50% in 3 years in the US in the last 3 years. And they also wrote that mobile games are so successful now they eclipse Hollywood's global box office revenue at $50 billion versus $40 billion in the US.
Yeah, and the vast majority of that revenue is going to maybe the top 100 games as well.
Yeah.
Like they're a huge business, and like even myself, I know I played the casual game. I mean, okay, it started with Candy Crush, which is going now. I didn't start with Candy Crush, but that's the one that everyone remembers, and that started what? God, Candy Crush must be old enough now.
It's around a while.
Like, because if you think about the farm bills and the
There's been so many iterations of that game as well.
I don't even know. Does it still go on?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Even The Office still plays it.
Does she?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. Say nothing. Say nothing, FIFA, if you're watching. It's sorry. But I mean, it's a major industry, and there's two aspects to it. There's the games themselves making the revenue from advertising, and then there's obviously being the guys advertising in them. So then you were kind of going it's predominantly word games, puzzle games,
brain teasers,
but then on the other, and that's I suppose particularly for the in-game advertising, because the other model is in-game purchasing, and that's your Clash of Clans and everything else. So they're two separate kind of areas. But for the casual gamer, it's very much the puzzle games. And I suppose, the stereotype of a gamer
it's
because
changed,
of this has changed
vastly, because mobile casual gamers, or whatever you want to call them, moca, I think is the short term for them, so mobile and casual, they're a part of the game industry demographic, and that's the way it is now, and devices are getting smaller and smaller, hence why mobile games are getting more and more important in the industry, and it's gone from sort of, a teenager in his mom's basement to everybody is a gamer.
Yeah. Let's see, it introduced an entire demographic that never was in there, or very few were in there. Like you can't make sweeping statements, but percentage wise they went from a very small percentage to being like 50% of the market. Yeah. And that changed everything. And then what were you saying
basically due to gaming becoming more and more popular among different demographics and consoles being introduced into family homes, like people decided that they wanted to game too on their own, so they, you've had kids' parents who decided to start playing games on their phone, and just correlated with the growth of the industry itself, designing games for mobile and kind of cross-platforming to mobile.
Come a long way from Snake.
A long way. So people are playing mobile games more and more for a lot of reasons, because they appeal to a much broader audience, like the likes of big Bethesda titles and things like that. There's a lot of lore, there's a lot of learning curve to them. Mobile casual games are usually easy, and there's less of a learning curve, and it means you can get straight into the game, and you're usually just by looking at it, you know how to play it. And that's straight away promotes it to people who aren't that used to gaming. They're way more accessible to all kinds of people with all different abilities, so they're way more accessible because of the touchscreen interfaces. Gestures are becoming a huge new thing in mobiles, because people are no buttons, full edge-to-edge screen. In fact, people would have a OLED whole screen and nothing on it if that's the way it's going to go. And gestures appeal to a lot more people, I think. They make it more accessible, and the small form factor contributes to it massively as well, because you can just have it in your pocket. Even a DS was quite bulky to be having in your pocket. Now phones are so thin.
I know they are. Although a large chunk, looking at the stats on some of our games, particularly like Bullyword, they were playing on tablets still. It was kind of like, if you looked at the time when the advertising was coming in, or when you were getting successful downloads, it was between 6 and 8 in the evening was kind of like wherever so you could track it across. There was the commute in the morning, so between 8 and 9, and then again around 6 and 8.
Yeah.
Those were the times where, roughly speaking, you got the highest amount of use.
Yeah, the most I see people playing mobile games is on the train a lot. Another real thing is they're often free. A lot of people, especially smaller companies in the industry, pitch their games straight away as free with either in-game advertising or they're what you call freemium, like we mentioned, Clash of Clans, with in-game purchases and that kind of thing, and which seems to appeal to a lot more people. And you think, because people are so frightened of advertising, but there is a study done in the UK, now it's a good few years old, and I'll have a link to it in the description, but it's done in 2014, and I think it was 4,050 something people were in it, and 8 out of every 10 people responded with they'd rather play a free game with in-game advertising than actually purchase a game.
Yeah, and it's led to a dynamic as well where I see some in games, if you pay a premium, you can get ad-free for a week.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of money for a game which, going back 5 years, would have been maybe $4.99.
Yeah.
And now you're paying like basically £2 every week not to get ads. It's, which is somebody who's seen the ad revenue you get from ad views, that's actually pretty good. You're making a lot more money than, unless, because the thing as well is like the vast majority of people don't click on the ads. So I mean, okay, if you click on the ads, you get a bit more cash for it. But I mean, for just people who watch them and skip them after 5 seconds, there's not a whole heap.
Another thing is they're short, which is like people know that if they sit down and play the game, they know they're going to finish it a lot of the times, unless it's a social mobile game, then obviously there's different levels and elements to that altogether, but people can know that they can sit on the train for a week and have it completed and get that sense of achievement and that sort of serotonin release that everybody plays games for.
Well, Candy Crush is up at level 3,000 and something.
Yeah.
So they add them every week, I think. Yeah. So, there is that level of, because I know a friend of ours who still plays Woolly Word, but like she was saying, I'm not competitive. I'm at level 90. Yeah. And like she's been playing it since it came out, you know.
That it requires less commitment basically of your time, and
you don't have this thing where you have to get to a save point.
Yeah.
You know, you can just, like, if you do come out of it, you're only missing a little bit. Yeah. But anyway, going back to the advertising and that side of things in the whole gaming sphere, obviously, so again, as I said, there's two aspects. There's getting people in to play your game, and we would have a good bit of experience of that in here. And it's not easy, not by a long shot. Of the things we've tried or we've done or working with other companies, we found SEOing your app description was by far the best return on anything. We had that screen application that we did for another company, and I think when he came to us, he had a very basic setup, but he was maybe getting 20, 30 downloads a week. And we just changed the SEO on his app description, and last I checked, I think it was 1,500, 2,000 a week people downloading it. All things being equal, most other things in it didn't change. Now it has since, but like during that time, that was the huge return we had. In terms of getting gamers in, the thing is you have to advertise in the device itself. It's a bit like when we came out with a PC game, there was no point in us advertising on Facebook mobile. You know, because there was no way, there was no correlation. It wasn't like, oh, okay, I'll flag that and download. Like that barrier just doesn't happen. Similarly, for the likes of Woolly Word, we had to advertise in Facebook, in Twitter, and in App Store as well. And it makes a huge, like it's a varying. So we did track everything, and we found Twitter to be the least productive. And we found Facebook to be the most productive. So, again, it's because of the targeting demographics. I mean, we knew the people playing our game were female, 20 to 55. So we were able to say to Facebook, look, female, 20 to 55 in these 5 English-speaking countries, because it's a word game, it has to be. And it just made, our return was, I think we were acquiring, 24 cent a customer, which isn't bad. Like, I mean, because our game is free to download, and again, we have ads in it. And we have in-app purchases, and our in-app purchases actually we're doing okay. I say we're because we haven't put any time into that game in the last probably 12 months, and weirdly enough, we're starting to put a bit of time into it now. We have another 75 levels kind of just been, ironically, I'm drawing one of them. So that's going to be, we got a tablet with a pen, and so my artistic skills are not great, but we're going to work that into the storyline of it. So let's see how we go. But so in terms of getting people in, that's what we found. It was like Facebook and all these platforms as well. There are aggregators that provide the ads, and there are aggregators you provide your ads to. So Chartboost, AdMob, Facebook have their own one, and basically you install that plugin into your game when you're building it, and then you just call the ads as you need. Unity have their own one as well because we use Unity 3D. They have their own Unity ad manager that can go in and you do the ads. Then from displaying them in the game, you want them, you want a reward for them. You want some sort of encouragement because, I mean, just having them pop up between levels kind of works, but you can't really get away with the longer video ads that way. So normally what you'll do is, look, if you want an extra life, watch this video. Or you want another spin of that puzzle wheel, watch this video. So that's where it goes.
You know what's going to be in a game, and a company or a service provider or whatever is going to know what's going to be in the game, and it doesn't change very much. A game is the game once it's built. Companies are now starting to see it because the demographic is open so much as a much bigger option to advertise in. Therefore, it's getting more popularity for companies' marketing and things like that because it's controlled what's in the game. The story of the game is going to be the same, whereas on websites and things like that, you don't know where your ad is going to be, whose site it's going to be on. You don't know whose video it came on before or during or after.
Yeah, those unfortunate. Do you ever see those newspapers where they show the unfortunate headline and then the ad beside it? No. That's true. Yeah, you're kind of guaranteed. The thing is, not if you go to those aggregators. So if you go to Chartboost or AdMob and you put your ad in there, you can select to a certain extent. So you can say, don't show this ad in adult-oriented games, or don't show this ad in child-oriented games. That's about the only restrictions you can place on it.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Again, you could be attached to a brand that, so the likes of the YouTube before they made their changes, and you'd end up with a video, and the video was like pro guns, and you were getting attached to this, and you're like, I don't want that, but you don't have any control over it.
Yeah.
And even you're kind of those tags where you say I don't want it in a game that's for overage or underage. You're relying on the person who listed the game to have tagged it correctly to be allowed to filter it. So it's not foolproof. It's not foolproof, and it is open because it's all big data. It is open to the odd anomaly, and more often than not, that's the one that gets picked up in the press. Like when, what was it? Amazon. People who bought this also bought this. That kind of thing where it says it suggests, and there were things where you'd buy one thing and it would suggest something else, and they were both parts of bomb making kind of gear. People who bought nails, auto bought, petrol, whatever it was, and you're kind of going, whoa, no. Yeah. I mean, it's just an algorithm. It's just a fact, but at the same time,
it is an algorithm.
Yeah, but people were giving out Amazon should have known better, and you're kind of going, well, Amazon doesn't employ a guy going, okay, that's okay, because it's just too big of a data problem. Okay. Go to other notes I have.
And something that a lot of people forget when they're promoting their own game is cross-promotion. If you've got multiple games on the App Store and they're similar type games, especially if you're producing for that demographic, we're talking about the casual mobile gamer, cross-promote them, promote your game inside your game. Have maybe a tab for more games, and you could list the games that you have that are along these lines. Everything, I'm sure when you're playing Candy Crush, you get, I don't know, is it Pet Hero Saga is another one? Yeah, and Soda Pop and Witch something. So don't forget to cross-promote them because they're all yours, and if they're all along the same lines, or that, there's often a necessity for them. There was a guy, he did an experiment where he had 1 or 2 games, so he just reskinned his games, just kept reskinning one a week and just cross-promoted.
he was making a fortune.
Yeah.
Because when he was cross-promoting, he'd cross-promote, but he'd also run other ads as well. And that's the thing, like Chartboost will allow you to run cross-promotions within their system, so you don't even have to come up with your own ad delivery system. But what do they, for payment of that, they display one ad a day to each user that isn't your cross-promotion. It's not a bad way of doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it from us when it comes to Casual Mobile Gamer. We actually ran quite over our time this time, but...
Did we?
Yeah.
Ah, sure.
But
I tried not to talk as much, but I got into it in the middle. Sorry.
That's cool. But yeah, that's us for this week, and this has been Coffee Not Found in association with Nebula Innovations. And you can find us on all of our social media channels linked in the description.
You're just not listening anymore now.
No.
We should just do a closing. We are going to do
we
a
are
closing
going
one
to
where it's just
closing
easy.
segment,
We just
so-
refer to the one at the end. God knows we may have done it by this one, in which case we'll cut off and be like, there.
Yeah.
But if not, at CoffeeNF,
Yeah.
at Coffee Not Found and .com, and they're all there. Anyway.
Coffee and a podcast on Facebook and Instagram. So we'll see you next time.
Bye now.